Welcome to the Happy Hour podcast. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Nathan.
And we are your hosts sharing our crazy lives here on the ranch with you.
We're husband and wife, and we're going to chat with y'all about what's happening here at the ranch, in the world, and whatever else we're fixating on.
And our goal is to share our journey, some laughs, and maybe we'll all learn a little something along the way too.
Welcome to Happy Hour podcast, and buckle up.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Happy Hour podcast. This is Shannon here. I'm solo today, but I'm so excited to have my friend on and my neighbor and friend. And you know what's so funny? Before I even introduce you, I have to say I was saying her name wrong for a very long time. And now it's stuck in my head and I have to go like, shit, is it Kristine or is it Kristen? Son of a bitch. And so I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Yeah, this is really funny because I adore her. I genuinely love her. And I didn't even know I was saying her name wrong for a really long time, but welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, it is Kristine Palmer. And it's funny that you were saying it wrong so long because as I told you, when we discovered this, I had never heard you say my name until that first day. So we had known each other for a year or two, and I hadn't even known you were thinking of me with Kristen instead of Christine, but it's Kristine.
Which I don't know why, because you have an E on the end. So it's like, obviously it's Kristine. And then I have to tell myself, because my middle name is Christina. And so I have to be like, Shannon, middle name. If you think of your middle name, just take the A off. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'll get there. I will. But you know how when it's stuck in your head for so long, I think I didn't never say your name because it was just like, hey, whatever. But in my head, I was thinking it. So anyway, Kristine, I'm getting it. I will. But I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. This is super fun. I learn a lot from you in business and watching you on social media. So I'm excited to chat with you today.
I'm so thrilled. Kristine is running an incredible, actually, I'm gonna let her tell you all about all her history and all her stuff. But the way we met first was through neighbors. We're neighbors. We live on the same road. It's a country road it's Marble Falls, but it's really on the border of Marble Falls, Texas. And we both have a love for horses, and we kind of really bonded through being neighbors and then having a mutual love for horses. And then we got to babysit her beautiful horses for just a very short while. And babysit meaning we just went down and fed them and gave them some love. And that was so much fun. And I don't know, we just connected that way. And then she started another company that really, really goes well with both of our passions and what we do here at the ranch. And so I'm going to now let you take it over and just first give us a little background about who you are and then what brought you to what you're doing today.
Sure. Thanks so much. Well, I am a wife to a wonderful husband named Nathan, just like your husband. So we have that in common too. When we first met, we were, your husband is Nathan also. And we both have two kids who are preteen teenagers and keeping us very, very busy. And I think we're both very much serial entrepreneurs and lifelong learners. So I think we connected over a lot of different things. But I've started and co-founded and consulted on many, many businesses in different industries. I love learning new things. I love solving problems, digging in and figuring out what's going wrong here, or what are some mutual challenges or struggles that people are having and how can we solve those. And if I think other people are having this problem and here's a solution, then everyone should know about it and it should be a business. So I start lots of businesses.
And then we go buy a domain.
That's right. Then I buy a domain. I put up a website and I see if I can make a crack at this one, And so I just have a lot of fun with that. I love finding partners that are interested in doing things, passionate about the same things as me. It's, like you said, our love of horses and helping people has really brought us together because we've seen the power of it. So yeah, the newest business is related to equine-assisted learning. And the premise there is really that horses just have this truly magical power about them to connect with people on a deeper level. And there's so many reasons for it, why they're so special and why it impacts us so much. But we work with horses. We bring people in and create an experience and an opportunity for them to see how they're showing up in their life, how other people are reacting or responding to them in a really fun, but also non-judgmental, carefree, but powerful way. So that's what the newest thing is, just letting people have a little bit of this experience, because we experienced it in our own lives when we moved out here and got horses that we actually were able to have in our yard and interact with every day. it taught us, the power. And we just said, we've got to share this with more people because we just didn't even know. My daughter has been taking riding lessons for, gosh, almost 7 or 8 years now, since I remember her 5-year-old birthday party for kindergarten. We invited her class and she did a little pony party at a local stable. And ever since then, she's been in love with horses and taking lessons. And I just didn't get it until, years later, the power of just interacting with the horses and how great it could be for people.
It's so funny you say that because I feel like we had similar routes that way too. So my husband grew up with horses. I wouldn't say that he's like an expert by any means, but he grew up with horses. He was super comfortable with horses. His dad used to do all the things, the rodeo, the team penning, the roping, all that kind of stuff. They had horses when he was younger. And then, of course, when he was an adult, he didn't have horses for many years. But our 2 youngest kids, we knew eventually we were going to move to property that we would be able to have horses. So when they were young, 3 and 4 years old, we started doing lessons with them. And I had exposure to horses when I was younger. I would go on rides with family members who had horses. My stepsister, her father had horses. And so there's some interaction I had, but I was always super afraid of them, to be honest with you. I was always like, these big ass heavy animals. And truth be told, I also had a interesting childhood, and I carried a lot of angst and anxiety for many years up into my late 20s, early 30s. So those horses knew that shit. And so we both mutually knew we were not good for each other for a really long time, or I had a hard time with them. And it wasn't until my daughter started taking lessons and I would hang out at the stables and I would just have this overwhelming sense of calm and peace that would come over me at certain times in certain situations with horses that I was like, what is happening? What is this? And then when it really hit me was during the very, very first weeks of COVID. At the time we were living in California, and my girls, because we weren't in school, the stables were like, well, they can come spend time helping us at the stables, because we knew, again, we were moving to property. And, girl, it's one thing when kids go and take a lesson and they love horses, but when you got to pick up their shit every day, are you still going to love horses? And so we were like, this is a perfect opportunity for the girls to work at the stables every day and, see, are you really going to be able to take care of these horses? It's not just get on the saddle and go. So I spent a lot of time at the stables then for a really long time. And oh my gosh, it literally was like, I just remember at one point even getting back in my car and sitting, just crying. Like, why am I processing so much stuff right now? What the hell is happening? And so, and I thought this is powerful. And I knew because in my master's program, we learned about equine therapy. And so I knew it was a powerful modality that way, but I didn't know just even having certain mirroring times or just certain interactions could provide such an opening to a person for what they're feeling and what they've been shoving away or not processing or didn't even know about themselves, which I know you've seen that time and time again. So anyway, so same like you, as far as like, I didn't always think horses was going to be like this big part of my life, or that could be such a powerful partner in processing until 5 years ago, really 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Have you heard the quote, Warwick Schiller is who brought it to my attention, but it's Sarah Schlody, I think, who talks about attunement. And it's this idea of being seen, being heard, feeling felt, and getting gotten. And that's exactly what I think you're hitting on, is there is something about being in the presence of horses who are so present and so aware of themselves, the rest of the herd, the environment around them, and you, and what's going on with you and their connection to that there's this authenticity that comes through, that has to come through. I mean, they recognize your authentic self, right? And so what I think about with your experience with horses is just this idea that was what was happening. You were feeling felt, you were getting gotten, and in a way you just never experienced before. And it just shook you, it just really creates that emotional reaction. Because it's hard to do that. As humans, we wear a lot of masks. We really present ourselves in a way, with our words, and even sometimes we can fake it with our faces, but it's really hard to fake it to your core, and with horses in particular, they see the core, they see the inside, they respond and react, like you said, the mirroring and things to what's happening in front of them with that human. And you can't fake it. So there's something about being stripped away and totally authentic that really is just different than what we tend to experience in real life.
I so agree. And I do think that, for some people that's super scary, super, super scary to get that real and that raw, and that vulnerable, but yet they feel it's scary, right? To just experience that. But for some reason with a horse, it feels safer, even though it's scary, which is interesting because for some people, even getting near a horse is like terrifying. But when you're doing this type of interaction, this structured type of interaction that like you provide, which I'm going to love for you to talk about what that looks like, or what I'm providing in a different environment, which is through the yoga and meditation. To have this experience with this safe, spiritual living being that is truly not judging you other than wanting you to be authentic. That is all the horse wants. That's it. They don't care what your history looks like or what you're thinking or what you're actually feeling or what you've done in your past. None of that. They just want you to be authentic, and then you are good with them. Then they're with, you know what I mean? And so there's no judgment involved in that. And that feels super freeing to people. And I think that's what happens is when you walk away from that, or even in the moment, you're just like, oh my gosh, you were, like you said, I was seen and I was felt and I was accepted, even with all this ugliness I might be thinking or feeling or processing. And that is just huge.
Hey, it's Shannon here. Do you want to know my number one secret to feeling good, including helping to ease my anxiety and stress? Yoga. I know, don't roll your eyes. But seriously, one of the best things I did for myself over a decade ago was delve deep into the rich yoga philosophy, history, and practices, which provided some incredible tools for healthy living, as well as inviting so much peace and joy into my life. And at the time, I had no intention of teaching yoga. I did it purely for me, to find love and acceptance of myself and the world around me, and I did. Of course, the training can also help if you want to then share the gift of yoga with others. All that to say, did you know that we now offer a yoga teacher training, including a 100% online option so that you can go completely at your own pace? Our online platform is bursting with so many incredible resources, including videos, workbooks, templates, and more. Plus, we have optional weekly live sessions and the ability to add on a 4-day in-person retreat right here at the ranch. Not to mention, you get access to the content for life, including our graduates who get to continue to attend the live sessions, if they want, to get CE credits too. So with affordable pricing, a convenient monthly payment option if you like, and the ability to go at your own pace, this is seriously the perfect time to join a community of incredible support, love, and learning. I did it for me, and I'd love to see you do it for you. To find out more, visit mindbodycomplete.com, then click trainings right at the top.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Absolutely. It really is very powerful that, the stories that I experienced when training is what really changed things for me. I had heard about equine assisted learning. My daughter, actually, it's funny that you talked about COVID being the time when you kind of really started getting horses, because it was the same thing for us. My daughter had been taking lessons for many years, and in Texas, at least initially, we were actually not able to go to the stable as soon as the various shutdowns happened. And it took away a huge piece of her life. We were actually in a very difficult part of an autoimmune journey with her, and she needed to be around horses. And, I started investigating where can I find these services for her. And we found equine therapy because she couldn't go ride. The rules at the time were something about if you didn't own a horse or lease a horse at a stable, you couldn't go to take lessons. And so since she was prohibited from doing what she loved, I was like, we got to find a way to get her around a horse. And so that was our first exposure to a different modality of equine assisted learning, which is more therapeutic in nature. And it really opened my eyes to, that she really needed a horse in her life on a regular basis. And that was the big impetus for us moving out here and having, horses and having them in our yard. So it's funny that it was at the same time, but all of that started this journey of exploration around horses and people and led me to equine assisted learning. And during that certification process, I just saw time and time again how people recognize something that was going on in them, were able to put words to it, which they hadn't before. Maybe they had heard that they needed to communicate better or heard that felt like they wanted to connect more deeply with people, but they didn't understand really what was going on until they had that experience with a horse. And then we're able to parallel it to life. This is, how is this happening with the horse right now? What's happening? Why is it happening? When else does this happen in my life? And why? Why is this the way I'm behaving, or other people are responding to me? And then finding that opportunity for actual change, which I think is the most powerful part. There's this introspective nature of kind of digging inside and figuring out what's going on inside of me and why. But then the powerful or lifelong learning that comes from it is, what do I want to do differently to end up with different results? That quote, it's attributed to Albert Einstein all the time, but I understand that it's maybe not him. That definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's what we do in all of our interactions with people, right? We tend to show up exactly the same way. These beliefs and behaviors are so deeply ingrained in us. And so we don't step outside of that and try something new until we have an experience that shows it to us in a really powerful way.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the true learning comes, is at the end, when we make that correlation to life and say, what do I want to change now, so that I show up differently and my interactions end differently, because I'm frustrated with how it keeps happening the same and I'm not satisfied with the results.
Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I think that's the goal of everything that us humans do, is to try to find the change that we're looking for. And so, as you know, my history had some talk therapy. That was my training, was talk therapy. And that has there's definitely so much benefit to that. And it's amazing to process verbally with another human being who hopefully is non-judgment and able to help you uncover some things that are important. However, there's that whole different when it comes to the sentient language of the horse, which is you can't say, hey, horse, tell me what you're thinking, or vice versa. And it's all about sentient language. It's all about energy. And I love that, I think you and I were going through training at the same time, but for different modalities of working with horses, where mine was all about sentient language and how I can apply that then with my yoga background. And yours was really about the change and the finding out the communication. I'll let you talk more about it. And we were in the same state at different trainings too, which is so funny. We were both in Arizona going through training programs, which is so cool. But I couldn't agree with you more, that there's just something powerful. So now tell us what you do. And then I'd love for you to talk about the couple of things that you've done here at the ranch too.
Yeah. Oh, those have been so fun. So what I do is group exercises where teams come in. Sometimes they're business teams, sometimes they're, participants in a similar organization. Sometimes they just have the same mother-daughter retreat like we did at your place, where it's just the same kind of people. And they come in and we do group exercises with the horses. So we take some time to talk about horse communication and, safety around the horse, and some of the things that participants need to be aware of, because we will work with horses in a totally different way than somebody has before. They can come in with completely zero experience and never have been around a horse. And some have been somewhat afraid of horses or uncomfortable around horses. And we can work with that because nobody has to even touch a horse. I think at my kids' camp, they call it challenge by choice. And that's what we allow people to do, come interact as closely as they want to and as they feel comfortable with. But the goal, of course, for someone who is scared, by the end of the day, I really hope they touch a horse, because I think they'll go away with a totally different understanding. And actually, I had one participant say that she had completely rethought her relationship to horses, because she had been around them from time to time, but always felt like they kind of didn't like her, or she kind of didn't like them, and they weren't that great, kind of like you had said, with each other. And she left saying, I have to rethink my essentially limiting beliefs on that, because her child happens to be in equine therapy, and she sees the power of it and the experience in his life, but just wasn't really comfortable around them until this experience. So we provide the safety talk and the demonstration so that people can understand how to safely move around the horse, because even if they do have a lot of experience, we're also still going to interact with the horse in a very different way than they probably have before. So I've had the cowboys and I've had the hunter jumpers and the dressage riders, and some of them have never really worked with a horse in this way. And so then after everybody feels like, they understand the idea of what we're doing here, we will present the team with a challenge, and they'll work together as a team to try to tackle this challenge. And generally it involves partnering with the horse to do something or go somewhere or encounter something. And it's just really funny because the team has to come up with strategies. They need to act again as they would in real life. Take some time to strategize. Who's the leader? Follow the directions. Do they need to pivot as they start trying things and it doesn't work? What do they need to try harder at? Put more energy on, maybe put less energy, maybe step back and observe and learn a little bit more about the horse as they are starting to interact. And they really tackle these challenges in the same way that they do in real life. So, example are like the corporate team that came to your ranch, and there were 15 of them who worked together, one female CEO and 14 male colleagues together. And they went into the arena, and I gave them a challenge to separate one horse from the herd. These horses were at liberty. We had 3 of your beautiful geldings, and one needed to be separated and moved into a box I had made on the ground with ground poles. So there was just a box of wood poles, and they just needed to get that horse to move in. And they came up with a plan. They started following the plan. Then some people deviated from the plan. Then, some of the support fell away. Different things happened, and they didn't quite get there. And we had them actually separated into 2, 8 working in the first group and then 7 in the second. So the 7 saw what was happening. And then they took their turn. They swapped. The 7 came in, and I said, you guys actually don't get the chance to talk during this half because you've seen this happening. You've seen what they tried.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to now find a way to communicate without actually speaking to each other to come up with your plan and strategy and execute it, make it happen. And they went through the same struggles and challenges. And when we get to the end, we talk about who was in charge. Did y'all follow the plan? Did you need to change plans? If you changed plans, how did you communicate with everyone else that we needed to change a plan? When someone had an idea that seemed to be working, did others come in and help support? What happened here? And then why did that happen? If you didn't get to where you wanted to be, why? Why did this happen?
Yeah.
And they really discovered a lot of things about their team, how creative they were, how problem solving oriented they were, how encouraging they were. They had a lot of enthusiasm and energy. And what I saw in them that I thought stood out more than anything and is classic for us. Well, I don't know if it's always classic for a startup team, but they had a no fear of failure. They tried everything. They came up with lots of different ideas, and it didn't really matter if it worked. They were excited that they tried and they checked something off the box, and they encouraged their team members that came up with new ideas to try, to keep going and to see if they could get it to work. And that's a really interesting characteristic of a startup team. They have to be that way. And I asked them, I said, is this how you believe in your company things work? Are you allowed to try anything? Should you try things? Is it okay if you fail? How do you learn from these failures? And they absolutely supported that and said, this is how we work. We feel totally confident in trying new things, and it's okay if it doesn't work. We just found one way that didn't work, and we're going to try something else. So it really, there's just so many parallels for them to recognize, their strengths as a team, and then things that they really needed to work on as a team. They had one person in particular in the second group who had a lot of experience with horses, and he had some good ideas that he tried, but everyone else just kind of watched him try those. And when he had something kind of working for him, they didn't come in and yeah, it's working. Let's make it happen. Let's all do it together. And I think they would have had a little more success had they jumped in and supported. So they recognize that as well. When someone has a good idea, don't let him be an island trying it out on his own. Everybody pitch in, and maybe we'll actually get to where we need to be. So the experiences are just so fun because they can be fun. They can be celebratory. They can, highlight our strengths. But at the same time, they help us see some things like, we really relied on that guy who had a lot of knowledge, and we didn't really jump in to support, and we could have maybe we could have gotten there if more of us had done it.
See, I think this is one of those really cool, companies are always looking for a team building activity. This is a team building activity with oomph, with real stuff to it that they can actually take back to their job and their lives and apply, whether it's their communication style, maybe it's some things they need to be aware of about their communication style, or whether it's even about the energy that they portray. I mean, just so many different things, and how open they are to failure, all these different things, but also have such a killer time doing it, like a really fun time. Like some of the videos that I saw, especially that corporate group, I was cracking up because you could tell that they were having the time of their life, and also learning. And so to me, just what a powerful team building activity for corporate groups to do, family groups to do. So tell me about the mother and daughter retreat one that you just did at the ranch, because I wasn't here. Actually, I wasn't here for either of those groups.
Yeah.
I wasn't here on the ranch, so I didn't actually get to personally witness. I just got the videos and then all the testimony from everybody afterwards, just raved. But you recently did a mother-daughter one, and these are with tween teens, like the hardest of the hardest ages, by the way.
Yes. Well, we are both experiencing that. I have a 14-year-old and you've got some just under that age. And it is really hard. They're at a big time of change in their lives and we remember it, but the time is different now. Their experience with things like social media and the challenges in their relationships are really different. So while we hear some of the same themes, maybe of feeling left out or, just having hurtful experiences, it's at a really different level for them. And so I think it's really hard. I was talking to my mom about some of the challenges we have with raising kids today. And she said, it's just so different with the internet access they have and the social media influence they have. Even if you really try to limit those things, it's just a hard stage of life. And since the generation before us that we learn so much from through the lessons and everything they can teach us, but also the experiences we remember having with them, how my mom helped me when I was struggling with, a relationship with a friend or being hurt at school. It's just not the same. And so we're all treading on this really challenging time of trying to figure out, what to do to help. And then you have that mother-daughter relationship that I think historically has always been hard at this age. Everybody's hormones changing and everything else. So it was a really special time at the retreat where, Casey had brought together this community for this connection with themselves and each other and nature, doing this yoga and other experiences for mother-daughter. And it sounded like they were just really like flourishing in their time together, being able to try new things, be outside in nature with people that they really want to be closer to. And actually, it reminds me, a couple of years ago, I heard this author speak, Sean Achor, I think is his name. And he is a happiness researcher. So kind of like Brene Brown studying shame and coming up with, belonging as such an important need to us. He really studies the opposite end. It sounds a little more pleasant to talk about the happiness end. It's really stuck out in my mind. I was trying to look it back up to understand if I had all of his principles right, because I think it's changed over time. But what I remember hearing at the Texas Conference for Women years ago was that happy people had many different activities that they did on a regular basis. And they reported being outside, moving their bodies, doing things with people that they love, trying new things, and having a practice of gratitude. And those things have stuck in my mind for years. And that's what was happening at that mother-daughter retreat. They were outside in nature, spending time with people that they love. They were being active, doing yoga and the horse things and walking around. They were trying something new because most of them had never done some elements of that before. And they were taking time to note, what they could be grateful for and finding good things and positive things to think about. So when you do all those things, it's bound to make you happy. And they were a really fun and happy group. We had 3 different groups come through because there were too many of them to fit into one experience. And each group was really different in the experience that they had but they did mostly the same activities. And that's one of the things I love about equine-assisted learning in general and doing it with groups is it's never the same. So the learning is really authentic to that group and to the energy they bring, the inquisitiveness that they bring to the table, what they want to get out of it and how much they kind of dig in. And so the first group, I remember having no horse experience that any of them could speak of. They'd done a trail ride or, been around a horse a time or two, but none of them were super comfortable. And we had such a great time connecting the challenges that we had in the arena exercise to real life and how they feel, they want to connect better with partners, with their spouses for the moms, with their siblings and their parents for the children. And it was just really mind blowing. And then, the day progressed and we had different groups that all had different experiences and left saying that, number one, like you said, everyone just feels better. They feel more at peace. They feel a sense of calm, but they have fun in these exercises, and they really find an experience, this new experience to connect in a different way. And we ended in the very last group doing we call it walk and talk with the horses, where one participant will lead the horse and the other participant will walk next to them, and they will tell each other, what have they learned? What has this experience been like? And we ask them to really think through the whole retreat, not just, they could talk about the horse experience, of course, but the last 2 days, where were they in their relationship? What were they grateful about that they had been able to experience in this time together? And we try to give them privacy, of course, but we overheard little bits and pieces as they come towards us. And it was just such a special time for those mothers and daughters to connect. And I think the investment that those moms made in coming, they will just see the returns in droves, because they've got some grounded, memorable, powerful experience to fall back on. Remember when we were at Retreat Ranch, and they'll have those stories to connect on and say, I really want to do better at that, or I really want us to think about that more, or let's do that again. And I think at this time in their lives and in our society, you really can't get better than that. Finding something you can really connect with your child on that will have truly lifelong impact, I think, on them in your relationship, but also them as people as they grow and develop. And I think a lot of the moms, I say it a lot that I'm not the best with children. I think they experience things at a different level. They're super creative and I learn so much from them, but the moms is who I connect with. And I'm like, oh, wow, we're doing it. And those moms saw a lot of parallels to life. And, the kids pick up on some of those too, but not quite to the extent of the moms. So I think it's, when they're thinking about things that they could be doing with their child, this is a powerful one. Going on a retreat, getting away, doing something you've never done outside, and then take some time to really think through what you're grateful for in your life. Golly, what a good practice to instill in our daughters and our children, and to model it and also practice it for ourselves so that we do it more.
Hey guys, it's Shannon. I'm just going to interrupt for just a second to ask you for a big favor. Will you pause right now and go leave us a review if you haven't already? Or if you're not subscribed, maybe click that little plus button. We are so appreciative.
Oh my gosh, so much is in that. And what's interesting is Casey Hall from Nectar Flow Yoga. She's the one that put this retreat on, and she's already booked next year to do it again, because immediately all the moms were like, we want to book, when's the next one? So she's trying to figure out how she could do one in the fall too. It's just the calendar for her and even the ranch is pretty backed up. But anyway, this was her first time doing this, not first time doing retreats. She's done retreats for years, and she's an incredible yoga instructor, among other things, but the first time doing the mother-daughter retreat. And I knew it was so needed. But even I've been hosting for years, I didn't know the profound impact that this would have, because the feedback and the testimony that we got from the guests, especially at checkout, and the difference, it's like this at any retreat, but the difference from their faces when they first arrived, and they're like, really, what is this? I don't know. What am I doing here? So when they left and they didn't want to leave, it's just I got goosebumps talking about it. It's just such a cool thing to witness. And then just their testimonies as they're leaving, to what they experienced. And it just was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And I'm so, so glad that you got to be a big part of that, especially with the horses, because that, all the things are so powerful that they can experience here at the ranch. But having that particular interaction with horses, that is creating some core memories and some change in behavior that's lasting, that you just won't get from just spending time in nature. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all about the spending time in nature and doing new things and all the things that you mentioned, but incorporating that new thing with horses in nature is just,
it's such a win. It is such a win. You really can't compare it with anything else. You're exactly right. You cannot compare it with any other experience. And I always tell people, like, I I don't know what's going to happen. They tell you this in training, and it's hard to wrestle with, but you don't know what the person is going to learn from it. And you just have to be open and curious, set the stage, give them the parameters, give them the opportunity, and then you have to see what they find in it. And I think that's why it's just so powerful to keep, and I just want to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. It makes me so happy because, what I did last week, even within the same groups, the same 3 groups did essentially the same thing. And the experience and the learning was so different from that for each. And so we got to the end of the day, I have co-facilitators that work with me and help, make sure that everything's safe and help lead the discussion and everything after the fact. And at the end of the 3, in between each, we were debriefing ourselves. And at the end of the day, we looked at the course of our day and how we as leaders needed to adjust what we were doing and think differently for the next one because of this reason or that reason, and how flexible we need to be in these situations when we're presented with one group who has 0 horse experience and we're planning for certain activities. And then we have the next group who is very comfortable around horses and already knows a lot about horses, and we need to change things a little bit. And so I think that's just what is so fun about it, is you just never know where it's going to go. And the wisdom of the horses is what it comes down to. They say it all the time, just trust the horse, show up, lead the process, and trust that the horse is going to give you something really special and tangible for these people. And it happens every time.
Yes, it does. It does. It might look different each time too. And that also is super cool, like you said, but it does happen every single time. So I am so excited that we've done this, that we've partnered with y'all to come out to the ranch. What if someone just wants to do work with you? Tell us about that, and how can they get a hold of you? Let's say they want to do something on a smaller basis. They don't want this big old, big groups like that you're doing here at the ranch. Tell us some different things that you could provide for someone who might be listening and going, this sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, we do. We have a lot of different ways that we work with people. We typically work in at least a small group setting. I have not really worked with individuals just because that is more like the training that you received. There's a lot of different nuances to ways that people can do equine-assisted learning. But we do provide these experiences for families on a smaller scale. We've been, the line item or the spot on the itinerary. We also do half-day workshops for small groups and full-day workshops at our place for small groups. And ideally, for us, it's like if there's 8 to 12 people, that's a really ideal number, because there's a lot of opportunity for different people to see different things and bring a lot to the table. And you're really digging into interpersonal skills there. So, corporate teams or organizations, groups coming from different organizations that want to work better together, that really want to connect on a deeper level and understand each other better. That's what we love to do. And we actually like to incorporate archery when we do it at our place, because archery is a really unique mindfulness activity. And so we like to say, come get present, be mindful. We'll do a little meditating, settling in on the property. We'll do some group exercises with the horses. We'll do a little introspective work on where we're at in our leadership and our own, internal dialogue and thinking. And then we'll test out that mindfulness on the archery range as kind of the final challenge, because you really have to get present with your body, with your breath, focus, get some clarity on what you're trying to do to hit that target. And so we have a lot of fun with that too. That's where the boys come in. The girls lead the horses, and then my husband and son lead the archery. And we have a lot of fun with that.
Oh my goodness. I love that so much. All right. Well, it'll be in the show notes, but shout out how someone can get a hold of you if they want to book something like this.
Well, they can find me in lots of places on Facebook and Instagram, Horse and Bow, Kristine Palmer with a K and an E at the end, Kristine at horseandbow.com. And website's coming soon. We're not quite there as far as launching the website yet, but I'm on LinkedIn, and people can just reach out an email and let us know what who the people are that they want to get closer to and want to experience something like this with, and we can make it happen.
Sounds amazing. And like I said, everyone, all this information will be in the show notes. So if you didn't quite catch it, just scroll down and you can click on the links there and find all of her information. So Kristine, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your heart, and also for playing with our herd here and creating some amazing change with our guests. We so appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Happy Hour podcast. If you'd like to learn more, visit us online at www.happyhourpodcast.org.
And you're welcome.